Today we're talking fly control in the Rabbitry. It's May here, going into June. The weather's getting warm and the flies are coming out. It's a rainy day today, so I don't actually have too many very active right now, but they definitely do get to be an issue, and there are several things that I do to control flies during the warm months. So one of the main reasons you want to make sure you're controlling flies is that not only are they annoying and probably a little stressful to the rabbits, and some of them could be biting flies, but your rabbits can also fall victim to fly strike. So best way to prevent issues, diseases, things that might be carried by the flies and fly strike is to control the flies. A few tips that I've got for you, how I control them in the Rabbitry. First of all, you can see I started with these fly stickers. These are probably my number 1 or 2 defense against them. They're simple, they're cheap. I get them at my local farm store, my local Walmart, grocery store. You can get them pretty much anywhere. You know, you might get 5 of them for $1 or $2, and they do actually a great job of catching flies. I've got them kind of in the middle of the floor here because when the flies are buzzing around, this is where you'll see them buzzing. So I like to put them kind of in their way so that they find them a little easier. Couple of other things to do. One is, and this is probably the number one, the real top, is to keep up with your cleaning. Whether you're using drop pans or you have droppings falling below your cages, you want to keep that out of there. I clean at least once a week. Sometimes when it's real hot and nasty, I might bump that up and do it twice a week. And I find that that is enough to keep the life cycle of egg laying, maggots, and hatching into flies and you know, exploding the population. That's enough to keep them down. Different flies have different life cycles, but near as I can tell, it takes about 12 days from egg to fly. So if you're cleaning once a week, you're getting rid of any maggots and eggs that were laid and keeping them from hatching in your Rabbitry and becoming more of a problem. Another one is to keep some material. If you've watched my other videos, you've probably seen that I use kiln dried pine shavings in the bottom in the drop pans. And those do a good job of absorbing the urine and any extra spilled water. Flies need to be laid in a moist environment with a food source. Your spaces below your cage and your droppings are going to be perfect for that because you've got obviously water and manure, which flies love. But the shavings do a good job of absorbing a lot of that excess and keeping it maybe a little less conducive to the flies. It also reduces odors in the urine, so that helps too. Another thing is apple cider vinegar, like we've talked about in another video. Goes in the water, helps reduce the smell of urine, so probably flies are still going to find you, but maybe hopefully that keeps them off. The apple cider vinegar in the water is also said to keep the rabbits themselves, it kind of acts as an insect repellent. So hopefully, even if you do have flies around, maybe they're bothering your rabbits a little less. One thing I did want to mention this time of year, and especially when you've got little kits. So this is, I'm in here feeding, and this is the feed dish out of Holly and her set of kits. And this happens a lot with the kits where they get into these dishes and they use them as litter boxes. They kind of poop wherever they eat. Obviously, this is getting thrown out because it's almost more poop than pellet. It's a waste, but it's kind of just something you go through in the life stage with these guys. But, you know, you want to get rid of any feed that is wet, caked in there, has urine or feces in there. Get rid of it. Get rid of it daily. And don't make that a place where the flies want to lay their eggs. You definitely can get maggots in here. I've seen it before. This is a little something, this is one of the reasons I like the cage cups as opposed to the J feeders, is that this time of year when it's really humid out most of the time, at least where I live, the pellets can absorb a lot of humidity from the air and then they cake. They can even get pretty wet, especially in the bottom of that where it kind of sifts down to the fines. And that's it. First of all, you end up wasting a lot of feed because the rabbits won't eat it once it's caked and wet like that. But second of all, you're inviting in flies and other insects, just making a good environment for them. So that's another one to watch. But all in all, you know, the basics of keeping the flies down in the Rabbitry, it's not too difficult if you keep ahead of it, keep ahead of the cleaning, use some things like these fly stickers. Another thing I've used before, not in the Rabbitry, but actually outside the Rabbitry, out a little bit away from the barn, is these fly trap bags. They have a lure in the bottom. They're kind of stinky, and they get stinkier as more flies come to them, and that's actually how they draw them. Is, you know, flies like rotting meat, so they come to that rotting smell, they go in the bag, and really they collect thousands. They're kind of amazing. One other thing I do is I try not to be an anal cleaner, and I try to leave the spider webs. You know, the older, drier, dustier webs that aren't sticky or home to a spider anymore, those I try and take down periodically, keep ahead of them, keeps the dust out, keeps the Rabbitry a little cleaner. But when they're new spiders, you know, why not? They're a natural defense. They're here trying to help us out, and we should let them. So, you know, those are several things that you can do. Again, the key takeaway is keep ahead of it. When you start to see the flies, put up the fly stickers. When, you know, keep ahead of your cleaning. If you're not using drop pans like I am, then shovel out that manure. Keep it shoveled out, swept out. If you keep the areas down where the flies can potentially live, they're just not gonna, it's not going to be the place where they choose to go, and they can't reproduce and proliferate. So I hope that helps you. If you have any tips for anybody else, please leave them in the comments. And as always, any other questions or comments, feel free to leave them, and head on over to meetrabbits.org, where we have a full article and some more information.